Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we were doing uh, a very unique deep dive.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at the technical side of language, C1, C2 level stuff. We are diving directly into the mind of an advanced English learner.
Right. Our source material it's basically a narrative. It's this incredibly close, intimate look at 2 days in the life of someone right at that level.
Yeah, their routines, their anxieties, and maybe most importantly, their breakthroughs.
And that's what makes this so fascinating. We're moving beyond, the usual talk about grammar and vocabulary lists. This is a masterclass in the psychology of fluency.
The psychology of it, I like that.
It shows you step by step that inner monologue, the daily habits, and just the small, consistent acts of courage you need to really master a language.
To make it part of you, not just something you use.
Exactly. Transforming it from a skill you rehearse into just an extension of who you are.
So our mission for you, listening, is pretty clear. We want to pull out the practical, actionable techniques, the mental frameworks that let this person make that final critical leap.
The shift from rehearsing language to actually owning it.
Yes, we're going to dissect how they got past that exhausting, that performance anxiety that just plagues so many high-level speakers.
And the source material is perfect for this because it gives us these small moments of growth. It all starts at, 6:52 in the morning.
5:02 a.m., yeah.
And it follows them through this big, high-stakes presentation at work and then into these quiet, really productive evening reflections.
And right at the center of it is this conflict, this battle that I think every advanced learner faces.
The desire for perfection versus the need for clarity.
Exactly. The need to sound perfect versus the need to just be understood.
And what this story shows so beautifully is that true high-level fluency, it's not found in complex sentences or, fancy vocabulary. It's found in simplicity, in honesty, and in frankly, the courage it takes to just be present in a conversation and take up the space you've earned.
It's a journey from fear to confidence, to clarity.
Yes. And it starts not in a classroom, but with a really small, intentional decision to just start the day with mindfulness.
Okay, so let's start there, right at the beginning. The source shows the learner waking up at 6:52 a.m., and there's this immediate intentional start to the day.
Right.
It's not just about waking up early. It's about slowing everything down before the day gets crazy. Why is that the first step? Slowing down things like, brushing your teeth.
Well, you're really talking about regulating your nervous system.
Okay.
All that language anxiety, that performance anxiety, it lives in the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. When you feel rushed, your body produces cortisol, and that makes it so much harder to find the right word to articulate clearly.
So you're already behind before you've even spoken a word.
Exactly. The source material says they are not hurrying, not thinking about the countless tasks waiting.
So by physically slowing down, they're activating the other system, the rest and digest one?
Precisely. The parasympathetic nervous system. They're creating a baseline of calm and internal control before they encounter a single linguistic challenge.
And there's this little ritual, right? They whisper something.
Let's make today meaningful. And that little intention shifts the focus of the whole day. It's not about surviving, it's about growing.
Creating a kind of steady, earned readiness. It's not fake confidence. It's built in that quiet morning.
And you see that stability carry over into the commute. It's around 7:38 a.m. The learner is just observing, noticing the city sounds as gentle waking sounds.
Right, which is a form of exposure, isn't it? But it's passive. They're not cramming vocabulary lists. They're just absorbing the natural cadence of the world around them.
And then that habit gets reinforced by this tiny routine exchange at the coffee stand with Mr. Patel.
Morning, sir. Your usual?
Yeah.
Yes, 1 coffee, no sugar. It's so minimal, but you're saying it's powerful.
It's foundational. Look, for a C1 or C2 learner, the problem usually isn't knowing the words. It's the cognitive load of producing them quickly under pressure.
Right.
These little predictable exchanges, they reduce that cognitive load to zero. You're just functioning. It's this immediate non-judgmental validation that says, I belong here, I can do this, the system works.
A linguistic system check. I like that.
Yeah, and then they're listening to people talk about traffic, hearing that spontaneous, non-textbook frustration in their voices. That's key practice.
Which leads them right to the next big technique they see on the metro. Shadowing.
Ah, shadowing.
The image is so specific. A young man is quietly repeating English phrases from a podcast. And our learner recognizes it immediately. They even catch the phrases.
I can speak English clearly,
Uh-huh.
and I'm improving every day.
Yes.
This is a huge pivot point for any learner trying to get past C1, because shadowing is not a grammar exercise.
What is it then?
It's an articulation exercise. It's physical. You're repeating language right after you hear it, trying to match the rhythm, the tone, the pauses, everything.
Okay, let's unpack that, because for someone who already has good grammar, why is this still so important? And is it different from how a beginner would do it?
It's completely different. A beginner uses shadowing for recognition, for grabbing new words. A C1 or C2 learner uses it for prosody.
Music of the language.
The music of the language. They're targeting physical fluency. There are basically two ways to do it.
Okay.
First, there's simultaneous shadowing. You're speaking at the exact same time as the speaker, maybe a second behind. It's incredibly hard.
I can imagine.
It forces your brain to bypass that internal translation step. You're listening and producing at the same time. It trains your mouth and your brain to get out of that constant self-correction loop.
Which is exactly what anxiety creates, that hesitation where the doubt creeps in.
Exactly. And then there's the other type, delayed repetition, or some call it choral shadowing. You listen to a whole phrase, then repeat it, focusing really intensely on mimicking the intonation, the stress patterns.
Ah, so you learn where the emphasis naturally falls.
Yes. At this level, that's often the biggest challenge left. Your grammar can be perfect, but if your stress patterns are off, you sound stiff, unnatural.
And the learner in our story recognizes this. They think, I was there once, I still am in some ways.
It's not a technique you ever really graduate from. It's a constant refinement.
And the phrases themselves are important, right?
Yeah.
I can speak English clearly.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about sound. You're building self-affirmation right into your muscle memory. It's coupling the technical practice with the psychological boost you need.
So it's about making the language feel less like an external tool you're using and more like your own internal voice.
That's the whole game. And that shift is crucial as they walk into the highest stakes environment of all, the office.
Right. The narrative takes us into the workplace at 8:57 a.m. And you can feel the pressure change immediately. The smell of coffee, the sound of keyboards.
And even though our learner is grounded, they've done the work, that old barrier just shoots right up when their manager, Olivia, asks for a quick review.
The physical reaction is instantaneous.
My shoulders tense a little, old habits, old fears. It's the body preparing for a threat. And for an advanced learner, the threat isn't just about miscommunication.
No, it's the fear that your language mistakes will make you seem less competent, less intelligent.
It's textbook imposter syndrome, just, localized in language.
But then comes this really critical moment of validation that just breaks that cycle. Olivia praises their written analysis. Strong, clear logic, organized structure. The writing was concise.
And the relief is described as what, like warm water?
Yeah.
That external validation is so powerful. It's a moment of cognitive restructuring. Olivia has just confirmed that the thinking is flawless, the C2 level analysis is perfect, the controlled output, the writing is perfect.
So it forces the learner to realize the problem is incompetence.
Exactly. The self-doubt is isolated. It's purely about verbal delivery, not about intellectual ability.
That's a huge separation to make. If I'm this capable in writing, why am I still terrified of speaking? It really narrows the problem.
It does. And that new understanding gets tested immediately. Olivia asks them to lead part of the client discussion the next day.
And you can feel that internal avoidance mechanism just screaming.
Oh, yeah. The text says, "For years I avoided speaking, worried about sounding unsure, sounding imperfect, sounding like someone who didn't belong."
It's not just about making a mistake. It's about this feeling of not belonging, of being an outsider.
Yes. The fear that your accent or a small error will just permanently mark you, and you'll never feel like you're truly part of the team. But then they take a calm breath and say it.
All right, I'll do it.
And that's not just a professional agreement. It's an act of psychological liberation. They're giving themselves permission to take the risk, even if it's imperfect.
And that shift gets this huge boost later in the day. The conversation with the senior manager, Jonathan, in the break room.
At 3:12 p.m., this is the anchor of the whole story.
He really is.
And Jonathan does something crucial. He starts with his own vulnerability. He admits he used to be a mess, barely sleeping, thinking every sentence had to be perfect.
Which is so important because it shows the anxiety isn't about being a non-native speaker. He's a native speaker, and he felt the same pressure.
It completely decouples the anxiety from language mastery, and then he delivers the core wisdom of this whole deep dive.
People don't remember perfect sentences. They remember clarity, confidence, and honesty.
That one sentence changes everything. It shifts the entire focus from form to function.
The mantra that comes out of it is so simple. Just communicate. Don't perform. But why is that so revolutionary for an advanced learner?
Because for years, you've been trained that language is a test, that your value is tied to your precision. When you perform, all your focus is inward. You're monitoring yourself, critiquing yourself.
You're your own worst critic in real time.
In real time. But when you communicate, your focus is outward. It's on the listener, it's on the message, it's on solving the client's problem. And that immediately lowers the emotional stakes of any tiny linguistic slip-up.
It's reframing language from an academic test to just a tool for connection.
A utility. And it's also, very much in line with modern professional communication. That super formal, complex sentence structure that anxious learners sometimes lean on. It often comes across as inefficient or even insecure.
Right. Clarity signals confidence.
Exactly. Directness signals respect for the listener's time, and you see the effect immediately. The learner walks away feeling lighter, steadier. The weight of perfection has just been lifted.
And they immediately start using their shadowing technique again, but with a new phrase.
I communicate clearly and confidently. They're not just practicing sounds anymore. They're embedding that new psychological framework. They're building a new identity.
And it works. When they talk to their friend Ava later, she says they sound calmer, more grounded. The internal shift is already audible in their voice.
The mental practice is just as real, just as effective as the physical practice.
So this new mindset, this focus on clarity, starts showing up everywhere. Let's jump to the lunchtime small talk with their coworkers, Ethan and Mia.
Right. And Ethan's dramatic groan about choosing what to eat. Why is choosing food always the hardest part of my day?
It's such a great little piece of natural idiomatic English.
It is. And it's in these little unscripted moments that you really see fluency. It's not about knowing some fancy vocabulary. It's about understanding the function of, light, self-deprecating humor and building connections.
And it leads to this shared realization. Nobody cares if your accent is perfect.
They just want your order. The focus shifts entirely away from perfection to just confident delivery.
And the learner admits to that classic C1 trap, rehearsing everything. Even ordering food becomes a memorized script.
That rehearsal trap is the curse of being competent. You can build a perfect sentence in your head, but the mental energy it takes means you miss the actual moment of connection.
So the breakthrough, as Ethan and Mia say, comes from real conversations.
Real life, not textbooks. The learner notes that they started noticing the rhythm, tone, pauses of real people.
Because textbooks teach syntax, but real life teaches cadence.
That's the secret. Real-life English is full of contractions, reductions, gona, wacha, and strategic pauses. You can only learn that cadence by listening to it and accepting that informality is okay.
Which brings us to the real technical test of the day, the interaction with Mia.
Yes, when Mia asks for help making a paragraph sound more natural.
This is such a critical moment. Because we assume C2 is about being more complex, but this story shows it's the total opposite.
It's the opposite. C2 fluency is the ability to take a complex idea and simplify it. The original sentence Mia had was perfectly correct, but so stiff.
We have encountered various operational challenges that may prevent timely completion of our objectives.
It sounds like it was written by a committee of robots.
It really does. It's full of these heavy nouns, these nominalizations that just clog up the meaning.
Exactly. And our learner, now operating under Jonathan's communicate, don't perform mantra, just cuts right through it.
We've run into a few issues that could delay our progress.
And Mia's reaction is the whole point. That sounds so much clearer. That's all native speakers do.
Okay, let's break that simplification down because this is gold for anyone listening. What did the learner actually do there mechanically?
They did 3 key things. First, they replaced the clunky nominalization operational challenges with a simple dynamic phrasal verb, run into.
Phrasal verbs, the bedrock of conversational English.
Absolutely. Second, they personalized it. We've instead of we have. It immediately sounds more human. And they used progress instead of objectives, which is just a clearer concept.
And the third thing?
They just prioritized simplicity, issues, instead of various operational challenges. Why use 3 words when one will do? They cut the noise.
So true advanced fluency is about having the skill and the confidence to distill a complex idea down to its clearest form.
It's about prioritizing the listener's understanding over your own desire to sound smart. When the learner realizes they simplify, they cut the noise, That's them defining C2 mastery for themselves.
And the day ends with another one of these intentional acts of presence, the walk home.
Getting off the train 2 stops early, because I like walking the last part home.
That's not just for exercise, is it?
No, not at all. That's essential cognitive integration time. It's active processing. Their brain has taken in so much psychological and linguistic data all day.
The fear, the validation, Jonathan's advice.
All of it. The brain needs quiet time, free from distraction, to file all that away and integrate the new frameworks. It's a mindful transition from work mode to rest mode.
And that little moment in the grocery store with the cashier, it's so subtle. The cashier just observes that the learner has a calm kind of tired.
It's so powerful. The cashier isn't reacting to their words, they're reacting to their presence. The learner is just centered, grounded. And that little connection is uplifting. It proves that all this internal work is actually visible to the outside world.
Moving into the evening then, the learner really starts to cement all this progress through reflection, the call with their friend Ava.
And that call provides 2 key things. The first is more of that external validation.
Ava tells them they sound calmer, more grounded.
Right. It's empirical evidence. The morning mindfulness, the clarity over perfection mantra. It's working. It's changing the actual sound of their voice.
And then Ava gives them this really practical tool, her 3-sentence nightly routine.
One thing I learned, one thing I'm grateful for, one thing I want to improve.
So for a language learner at this level, what would that actually look like?
Well, it gives you this really specific, actionable way to track progress that often feels invisible. So for our learner, it might be something like, one thing I learned that using simple phrasal verbs makes my professional language sound way more natural. That's a technical breakthrough. One thing I'm grateful for Jonathan's advice, for that permission to stop trying to be perfect. That's the psychological reframing.
And the improvement.
One thing I want to improve. Tomorrow during the presentation, I'm going to consciously slow down my opening to make sure I'm connecting, not performing. So it's about applying the new mindset.
That structure gives you a tangible way to see your own psychological progress.
It does, and that emotional honesty continues when their colleague, Daniel, shows up late at night.
With pastries. A peace offering.
And he immediately shares his own vulnerability. He looks confident, but he says, only on the outside. Inside, I'm a mess.
That just normalizes everything, doesn't it? It tells the learner that the stress is just a human thing. It's not a language thing. Daniel's a native speaker, and he's just as nervous.
It completely decouples the anxiety from the language itself, and then he gives them that final potent piece of advice.
Remembering that the client is human. We're not performing for robots.
It's the same message as Jonathan's, just framed differently. The goal is collaboration, not a test. It shifts the learner from the role of a nervous student to a capable colleague offering a solution.
But then Daniel says something that I think is the deepest insight in the whole story. He notices a change in how the learner speaks.
You speak differently, calmer, clearer, like you're actually listening to yourself.
Listening to yourself. That is fascinating. What does that mean?
It's the hallmark of true presence. It means you're not just retrieving pre-planned sentences from your brain. You're speaking slowly and intentionally enough to process your own words as they come out. You are in the conversation, responding to the flow, not just executing a script.
And that leads to Daniel's core definition of fluency.
Not everyone gets there. Most people speak to impress, you speak to connect.
Wow. Connection versus impression.
That's everything. If your goal is to impress, you focus on complex words and perfect grammar. You're self-monitoring. If your goal is to connect, you focus on clarity, tone, and empathy. One leads to anxiety, the other leads to belonging.
And the learner feels this shift, this internal permission. I'm allowed to take up space.
Which means their linguistic identity has finally matured. For so long, they felt like a guest in the language, like they had to behave perfectly to justify being there.
And now?
Now they know their ideas have value, even if they're delivered with an accent or a minor slip-up. They have permission to just be their competent, authentic self.
So with that new confidence, they review their presentation slides one last time.
And the focus isn't on fancy words, it's on real human language. Simple, direct, honest.
Here's what we found, here's what it means, here's our recommendation.
It's the clarity mantra put into practice, a bulletproof communication structure, and their final thought before bed seals it. I speak clearly and confidently in every situation. They're ready, not because they're perfect, but because they're committed to being clear.
Okay, so presentation day. The second morning, the focus is all on maintaining that grounded state they built the day before.
Just be steady. You're ready. They're actively managing their nervous system, drawing on that quiet confidence they earn.
And the outside world just seems to confirm it for them. Mr. Patel at the coffee stand.
He just intuits it, big day, and he gives them the coffee extra strong for extra courage. It's this little moment of community support that just bolsters that confidence.
And then right before the meeting, Mia says something in the elevator that just solidifies everything.
You've become someone people trust. Because when you speak, it feels sincere, not showy, not forced, just honest.
Trustworthiness, that's the ultimate C2 skill.
It is. Sincerity is the natural result of clarity and presence. If you're focused on the message and you're present in the moment, you can't help but sound honest. Trust has replaced fear.
And then it's time. The presentation itself, the learner stands up, and the crucial detail is their body's response.
Their heart is pulsing, steady, grounded, not afraid. They've tamed the fear response.
And the experience is completely different.
The source says it perfectly. The words flow naturally, calm, clear, confident. Not because I memorized them, but because I own them.
Because I own them. Let's talk about that. What does linguistic ownership mean at this level?
It means the language is fully integrated. The thought moves directly from the idea in your brain to the words coming out of your mouth, and it bypasses that whole internal checkpoint of translation and grammar checking.
It's not borrowed anymore.
It's not borrowed. It's yours. They're in a flow state, present, not performing, communicating. The whole framework has worked. It's turned a high-stakes test into just an exchange of information.
And the client feedback confirms it.
And it's so specific. They don't say, your grammar was great. They say, that was clear, concise, easy to follow. And they specifically praise the simplification of complex data without losing the meaning.
That's the proof right there.
That's the proof.
And that feeling of belonging finally replaces the feeling of just trying to survive.
That's the real payoff. And then you have that final reflection from Olivia and Jonathan in the hallway, looking back on the whole journey, from someone who barely spoke to someone presenting to international clients.
And Olivia's takeaway is so profound. Growth isn't about small steps, it's just real steps.
Real steps, taken consistently in those small, ordinary moments. The mindful mornings, the discipline of shadowing, the courage to simplify, the choice to stop performing.
It's the slow, quiet accumulation of those conscious choices.
Yes. And the learner's final reflection, reading that thank you note from the client and whispering, quiet pride lasts longer, just closes the circle perfectly. From fear to a deep, earned, grounded satisfaction.
So what does this all mean for you, for the listener who might be feeling stuck in that space between C1 and C2, still rehearsing in your head? We've pulled 3 really actionable takeaways from this entire journey.
First, and this is the big one, you have to prioritize clarity. True advanced fluency is about simplifying, not complicating. It's the power to distill complex ideas. Your focus has to be on the message, not on eliminating tiny mistakes.
People remember clarity, confidence, and honesty, not perfect grammar.
Exactly. Second, you have to practice presence. Fluency is psychological. Use grounding techniques, the morning rituals, the walks, the 3-sentence reflection to calm your nervous system. You have to stop rehearsing in your head and just be in the conversation.
Speak to connect, not to impress.
And third, you have to embrace courage over perfection. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding to go ahead anyway. It grows when you give yourself permission to take up space, even when you're not sure.
Remembering you're talking to other humans, not performing for robots.
That's the key that unlocks it all.
This whole deep dive really shows that the final stage of this journey isn't about getting more stuff, more vocabulary, more grammar. It's about letting go of the internal burden of perfection. It's about realizing you're already capable.
And that brings us to our final thought. We spend years, believing that fluency starts with technical perfection, perfect grammar, perfect accent.
Right.
But this story suggests that fluency actually begins much, much earlier. It starts the moment you believe, internally, that you are capable and enough to be in that conversation.
That shift from I hope I don't fail to I am capable and my message is important. That is the real definition of C2 fluency.
So the question for you to think about is this. How does focusing on that belief, on the knowledge that your voice has value and your goal is connection, how does that change the way you'll approach your next conversation tomorrow? Because that is where your real fluency begins its steady, quiet growth.